So we're just doing the rebuild on the overdrive section of the 5R55 NSW. We've got the overdrive Planetary here. If you have a look, you've got to take special attention that the thrust washers, there's little thrust washers on the end of those gears, sometimes they wear out completely. So you can see that one's still there. Looks like it has thinned out a bit. There's another one there. But this is the non-wearing side. If we have a look on the other side, you'll notice there's one there, and over here we've got nothing. No thrust washer, completely worn right out. And on that one, completely gone. So if we ended up putting this back in the vehicle without checking that, what would ultimately happen is you've got metal to metal there, and it's going to just blow up, and you're not going to know that that was the issue that caused it, because it would just completely disintegrate everything in that section. So on these Planetaries, the overdrive Planetaries, you've got the sun gear. In this particular one, it's a 38 tooth sun gear. You can get kits from Sonax like that. That's the 38 tooth sun gear overdrive pinion set, and you can see the little thrust washers there. And there also is a 24 tooth one, so you got to make sure you get the right one. There are the part numbers there. You can check out sonax.com, and that's that one there. So they are slightly different. Alright, so we've got a little tray there to catch it. We've got our little driver there, and you'll notice that it's not square, it's rounded off. And basically we just tap out the pin. There we go. Pin's right out. Roller's right out. There's one thrust washer, the other one's not there. And we'll knock out the other ones as well. So this one's got nothing there, so we'll knock that one out. One thrust washer and one not there. Now, one thing that I have forgotten to do, quite often you'll find that these pins are just worn on one side. Good idea to just mark, maybe with a die grinder, just mark where the outside is, and that way if you turn that 180 degrees, even though the worn bit will be on the inside if you don't have pins, you're pretty safe that it's going to be sitting or running mostly on a part that hasn't been worn out. And finally we'll knock out the last pin. And you'll see this one has actually got two thrust washers. There we go. Okay, we've got the 38 tooth kit. Just to show you how worn they are. These are a 20 thou, if you can see that. And the worn ones, well, that one's alright, that one's 20 thou. That one's about 18 thou. 18 thou. And that one's got a big step. You can see that machined into it where that's sort of worn right in. so hard to measure that one, but that one's buggered. And we got 2 zeros because there was nothing there. Now these gears, these are the driven gears off the Sun gear. They've got 28 teeth on them. But what I've forgotten to do is just mark which way they were facing. You can have a look at the witness marks there. And I like to turn them 180 degrees when you're putting it in. Now because we've knocked it out that way, we need to push the pin back in the opposite way, and you'll notice when you're driving it out, you've knocked those little locking marks out. So you want to make sure that you don't knock it in where the half is where they're not straightened out when you're pushing it back in. And make sure you put a thrust washer either side of the gear. So I've just had a look with our little loop there, and on the Sun gear the tooth is worn on this side, so it's pushing that way. So then I've gone and just checked and made sure that that's the side that's worn. So that's how it was sitting. I've marked them with the white paint there, the liquid paper. So I'm going to swap these over, turn them around 180 degrees, and that will be wearing on a new spot on these driven gears. The Sun gear, you can't put it in because it's got that little step, if you remember from another video. You've got that little star there that drives off the overdrive hub. I've got a fine stone there. You just take that edge off just so it doesn't damage the bearing as you're pushing it in. If you're going to reuse your old pins, if you're going to put new pins in, it doesn't matter. These pins are like new anyway. So if you remember, I drove them out that way, so I've marked with the white paint there, and also the pin went out that way, so it straightened out those little locking marks. So now I have to push them in the opposite way. A little bit of assembly gel, just so it holds it in position. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, it's a good idea to just run your finger where those thrust washers run, top and bottom, just in case you've had metal to metal contact between the gear and that housing. If the housing's chewed in too much or marked, then the thrust washer isn't going to last very long. It will last for a little while, but it won't last very long. So just make sure you check that top and bottom. This one is okay. And I've got one thrust washer there, you can see. And we'll put the other one on. Assembly gel. This one goes on the top. And now that the gear was like that, so I want to make sure I see the little mark that I've got, and we just slide that in. Don't forget your little bearing there too. There we go. And now the pin, because we drove it out that way, we want to make sure that the liquid paper mark or the white mark is going through the bearing. It's a little bit fiddly. Now I've got my little pinky finger in there just guiding it, so the thrust washer's still in place. And now we just tap the the pin back in slightly. There we go. Now sometimes you will need a 14mm dolly just to guide it so you can actually get the pin through that thrust washer and through the bearing. And you don't want to force it or you'll end up bending that thrust washer. Okay, we've just double checked thrust washers there. We haven't bent it or anything like that. And now we need to slide that one in. You can see I'm just sliding it in there like that. And you want to align it so it's right over the pin. You can't see it sticking out anywhere. And then we give it a little tap. You want to be patient. You don't want to bend those thrust washers as you're pushing the pin back in. There we go, we're through. Okay, that's that one. Give it a bit of a spin, make sure it doesn't feel grumbly or anything like that. And we can actually put two in, and then don't do what I do sometimes, forget the Torrington bearing. You can get it back in if there's two of them there, but you won't be able to get it in if you put all three in. Pin in. We just want to get it the height of the pin in, just the height of the thrust washer, which is 20 thou, about 1/2 mil, which is bugger all. Okay. Little mark, we've turned it 180 degrees, and the bearing, don't forget the bearing, and put that in like that. Now we can just, you can either line it up or you can use a dolly. And you don't want to force it or you will end up damaging that thrust washer. It's going in. Have a look, confirm that's going in. Nearly through. And now we can put the other thrust washer on. A bit of assembly gel. You can see it's not lined up. You line it up like that, so you can't see the thrust washer. pushing the pin down because I've located the thrust washer, and that's gone through. There we go. So we can tap that in so it's level now. It doesn't matter, we'll level that up in a moment. Okay. The Torrington bearing. Make sure you put that in first before you put the third roller in, or you won't be able to put that in. Again, we just take the edge off that You only need to do where the locking points are, because that'll have a bit of a burr there. Alright, Torrington's in. Make sure we've got our mark facing down. Pin has to go in the same way. The driven gear, or the smaller gear, is going to go in 180 degrees. A bit too far. Alright. Thrust washer again. So over the pin. Torrington goes that way. Don't forget your little roller bearing. Here you can see we can't see the thrust washer at all there. So now I'm keeping tension on the pin just so it doesn't come back down. I can just tap that pin through a little bit. There we go. Going in a little bit too far. And we've got the last thrust washer. Now you need to sort of work this one in because we've got that Torrington bearing in there now, in the way a bit. There we go. Line the Torrington in, the thrust washer. If you put a bit of gel on there, it should just hold where you keep it. Okay, I'll give that a little, and don't force it until you confirm that it's gone through, and that's gone through. Now we can tap it right in. you go. Just confirm. The gears do have to have a little bit of sideways movement. A bit hard to see there, but they do have sideways movement. And you want to just confirm that you've got them in 1, 2, 3, and on the other side 1, 2, 3. And now we just have to lock these back in, the pins back in. Some people, they put a little tack weld on it. Up to you what you do. We lock them in. Now we've got this little support tool there, and what happens, we've got that little weld there because on these, see there's a little step there, so when we're resting it on there or resting it on the pin, if you don't have that support, what'll happen, you'll actually drive the pin right through and loosen it again. So we've got that little thing there. And another thing is we've got like a little bit hard to see, but it's a square high-speed steel grinded just so it can fit in those little slots there. You just want to, the pins go in to that housing pretty tight anyway, but you just want to just bend that out or tap that out just so it locks in a bit, just so that pin can't move out of that housing. And that applies to both sides like that. That's what that support tool's for. And you just want to lock it in. There we go, all locked in, all spinning nice and freely, there's no grumbly noises. So you've saved yourself a few bucks instead of replacing the whole Planetary gear, or the Planetary, overdrive Planetary. Anyway, I hope that helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Any questions or comments, leave them in the section below. And throw us a beer if any of this information helps. Link is in the description there. Thank you for watching.